have the time to start anyway, so let's get comfortable. It is Thursday the 5th. Is this the 5th? Yes, 5th of August. So we're here for gentle. So whether you're sitting on the floor or in your chair, get really comfortable in the way you're sitting. Let your shoulders melt down and move your hands around a little bit. See if you can find the best place and the best way to rest your hands so your shoulders feel as open and relaxed down as you can, right? So sometimes if you put your hands in a different place, your shoulders tense up a little bit. Find a really good place. And then just lengthen up. Let your eyes gently close. And feel your breath coming in and going out through your nose. So just softly bringing your awareness to your breath. Deep breath. If you're okay to come into a 3-part breath, inhaling into your belly and your ribs and all the way up into your chest. And then gently letting your hands come right together to meet in front of your chest. So let's lift our elbows up a little bit. So feel the hands more firmly coming together there, your fingers and your palms. And then let the elbows soften down and inhale the hands up. See if you can draw your elbows a little more towards each other in front of you there. And then when you exhale, let the hands come right down to be in front of your chest. So we'll do a couple of those. Inhaling, hands coming up only as high as you want. Kind of draw your forearms towards each other. And then when you exhale, let them come back down. So just a couple more times with your own breath at your own speed. Letting yourself feel your shoulders, your wrists. Let your arms start to come into play here. The next time your hands come back down to be in front of your chest, let yourself stay there. And let's unfold our arms right on down beside us and inhale just your right arm all the way out and up overhead. And as you exhale, come on over into a bit of a side stretch. Let yourself reach over to the side. Doesn't need to be far. And you can use your left hand there on the floor beside you if you're on the floor. One more breath. And then come on back all the way upright, lowering that arm on down. And now let's make a big circle with our right arm. Reaching forward and up overhead. And then back behind you as far as you can go and letting the arm come down. And then we'll inhale the left arm all the way out and up. And come in again into that side stretch. So if you're on the floor, you can just give a little support with your hand there. Really feel that sense of lots of space between the ribs there on the left side of the body. Breathing into that left side. And then we'll rise on back up and lower the arm down. And again, coming into that one big circle. Reaching forward and up overhead and then back behind you as far as you can go and letting the arms come on back down. Let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead, and on our exhale let our hands come right down together in front of our hearts. And let's come on into a little seated forward bend. Now in your chair, if you want to separate your feet more, you can. Rest your elbows above your knees. Maybe you want to bring your hands down lower. That's totally up to you. So you can rest elbows above knees there. You can come down, hands towards the floor. And on the floor, whether you stretch your legs out or stay cross-legged, that's up to you. So you come into your forward bend that feels good for your back. Let yourself, if possible, release your head so that you don't feel like you're tensing up your neck, right? You're trying to let yourself feel the weight of your head, as long as it doesn't bother your back. And just enjoy easy breaths. And we're going to start to rise back up. So take your time. Use your hands to help you if you need as you come on back up. If you're in your chair, go ahead and bring your feet closer together again. Let's release our arms down beside us. Take an inhale. And on the exhale, twist to your right. Let your left hand come around maybe to the midline or maybe to your right knee. Maybe even to the outside of your right knee. It all depends on how you're sitting. Let yourself lengthen up. And one more inhale. And on the exhale, come on back around through center, waking the spine up as you come in the other direction. And again, just enjoy. Feel your sitting bones reaching down. Feel that sense of the twist being in the middle of your back. One more inhale. And on your exhale, release back around into center. And shake out a little bit. We're going to stretch if we're on the floor, our right leg long, and we're all going to cross our left ankle either above. If you're long on the floor with that leg, you can go lower if you want to. If you can cross above your knee into that figure four too. Flex through your left foot, and then just imagine coming forward from your low back. So it might be a tiny little bit. You're welcome to put your right hand on your left foot. You can either interlace your fingers kind of between your toes if that feels good to find the sense of a little bit of space between your toes, or you can press the ball of your foot into your hand too. You can do a little bit of both. So just be mindful, let it feel really good to feel that hip there. Keeping the length of the spine. Good. One more breath here. And now let yourself slowly come on back up. We are going to switch legs. So take your time to go the other side. And again, how high up you cross really depends on you. Be mindful of your hip. Again, if you can put your hand on your foot, or if you like to interlace your fingers between your toes, you can. And press the foot gently into the hand a little bit if you can, which really activates you up into that hip. Again, think of coming forward from your low back. So you can be really mindful of keeping that length of the spine, and think about feeling your head as a part of your spine, really. So you don't send your chin forward like that. You don't find that tension in your neck. Instead, there's this sense of length in the back of your throat, too. Good. So one more breath here. And when you start to rise back up, take your time. Let yourself come on up. Uncross your legs here now and stretch your legs on out in front of you. Let yourself flex through your feet and then point your feet. Really point so you really feel like you're reaching those toes as far away as you can. And then flex your feet again. This time when the feet are flexed, turn the pinky toes down a little bit so you're turning out from your hips. And then point your feet there. And then flex your feet again while you're turned out like that, and turn your toes back up towards the ceiling. Good. And now see if you can circle your feet in the same direction one way. Doesn't matter which way, but they're both going in the same direction. And you're trying to keep your legs still, and it just be your feet that are moving there. So you're really just moving through the ankles and the feet. Stop when you're at the top again and go the other way. And see if you can kind of feel like your feet are even. Right? You can even look at them and say, am I actually doing this at the same time? Oh, you can imagine it's like synchronized diving at the Olympics, that your toes and feet are the same. Is anybody watching that ever? It's about the only thing I'm enjoying watching, if you want to know the truth. But we're going to come on up and around towards our hands and knees. But it is pretty phenomenal to see these people diving from 3 stories up to a swimming pool in perfect synchronization. I mean, this is unbelievable. So get yourself set up, and whether you like to be up with your hands on the chair or on the floor, get mindful of your wrists. If you need to be on fists, be on fists. And then just let your tail wag around a little bit, and when your hips just shift a little, let your head do whatever it wants. Right? Your head might want to look back towards the direction you're putting your bottom, or you might want to do the opposite, right? You might want to do a little bit each. And then come on back into center. Take a nice inhale as you look down between your hands, and then as you exhale, drop into your cat pose. Stay in your cat pose for a little bit. So you got to be able to breathe if you're going to stay, right? So there are little shallow breaths, but your navel's drawing towards your spine. And then on your next inhale, send your tailbone back and up. Feel how your belly drops down, your ribs, your heart. You can look down or you can look forward in your cow and see if you can stay there for a breath or two. Take a nice inhale. On the exhale, draw that tailbone back under you and come on back into your cat pose. And now just move at your own pace. So you can stay in cat or cow like we just did, or you can move continuously with your breath. Let it feel really easy. Find that snake-like feeling of the spine there so that you feel, really, it's like you don't have bones, right? That ease of moving through, finding those curves, and thinking of moving sequentially through your spine, starting at your tailbone. And we'll finish off the one that we're on. And we're going to come back to more neutral spine here now. And let's bring our left foot forward. Step our right foot back and come into our first lunge. And how high you want to be for your hands on the lunges are up to you. You can be on a chair, you can be on blocks any height. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears and take your time. Give that back of that right leg time now. Feeling the calf start to release a little bit. Feel behind your knee. Think about engaging your belly a little bit here. And we will switch to the other leg. So how you do that, whether you like to step forward or back, is up to you. Remember, you do want to feel like you're on those very narrow railroad tracks, which really helps to get yourself into the hips a little bit easier and more evenly, really. And again, give the back leg a time to reach out here and stretch out. Feel your calf, the back of your knee there behind your knee. Engage the belly. Good. We are going to switch again. Bringing that right foot back. So again, once you get into the lunge, if you feel pretty good to lift a hand or hands up to come up a little bit with your upper body, you know, a little bit more out of the picture, more into your legs and your hips, you can bring your left hand to your thigh there, or not, or both. And we're going to switch again. So again, how long of a stance you take, totally up to you. You want a little bit of width. If you feel good to bring your hand up or your forearm up to your thigh, you can. Good, and we're going to step on forward and come into standing forward bend from here. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. Be mindful as you start to use whatever support you need underneath your hands or your forearms. Bend both your knees a little bit more than you usually do if you're in your standing forward bend. So they're bent a little bit more. You can feel your sitting bones over your heels. And then just straighten out one leg, but keep the other one bent. And then just switch. So you're kind of walking a little bit. One knee at a time is bent, the other one is straight. You can go back and forth however you want. End up back at center. Let yourself feel your sitting bones over your heels. Whether your knees are a little bent or straighter, that's up to you. Just make sure you're not locking your knees. You don't want to press back into the backs of the knees and feel like they're locked. Full breaths, nice, easy breaths, feeling the ribs naturally want to expand in all directions when you inhale. Think about letting your face relax every time you exhale, that you just relax more and more through your face. And letting go of your jaw. Even imagine relaxing your tongue. Good. One more nice full deep breath. And then as we bend our knees, press equally into our feet. We're going to rise on up to standing. And inhale our arms out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. So take your time. If you need to look at your feet, do. Just make sure you got your feet about hips distance apart where you're pretty comfortable to be there. And then bring your gaze on forward. See if you can let your hands gently come to meet in front of your heart. And then get that pelvis aligned, right? Make sure you're reaching your tailbone down towards between your heels. Feel equal as you can between your feet. And then the body really wants to stack up. Your hips really want to go over your ankles and your shoulders over your hips. And feel your hands gently together there in front of your chest. Feel the fingers connected, your thumbs, whatever part of your palms are touching. And again, let your face be soft. And as we release, to unfold our arms right on down beside us. Let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. Once you're there, bend your elbows. Let your hands come down. That'll depend on you. If you can kind of hold your elbows a little bit with your hands, do. If not, you can hold more like your hands or your wrists, right? Depending on your shoulders. Let yourself engage your belly, but don't tuck your tailbone up under you. Let the tailbone reach down towards between your heels. Feel your triceps opening up a little bit there. One more breath. And then open into a wide V with your arms so that you're in a mountain with your arms overhead. Turn your pinkies a little more in towards each other there. Really spread your fingers a little bit. And if you're able to lift your gaze up a tiny bit, do. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, we'll bend the knees and fold forward from our hips into standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find a nice long flat tabletop back. And we'll step our right foot back and come into lunge here. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So you know whether your hands are on the chair or on the blocks of the floor, totally up to you. Really be comfortable in your shoulders. Spread your fingers as wide as you can. I know it's harder on the blocks. And hug your elbows a little towards each other so you feel that sense of really being engaged up into your shoulders. And on your next inhale, come on out towards a plank. Now, you don't have to do a full push-up pose, and you know what, that's up to you. You can go to your forearms and get out of your hands. You can, if you'd like, do little push-ups. Let your elbows bend a little in towards your ribs. You don't have to do a full push-up to get a lot of benefit in those. Or you can just stay there in your plank, finding core strength, engaging your belly there. Good. Then we're going to make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. Walk a little bit in your dog like we did in our standing forward bend. Bend one knee at a time. Good. And then come on back into your full dog, and we're going to bring our right foot forward to find our lunge here. So how you get there is up to you. Both knees can come down, or your left knee can come down to step that right foot forward. And we'll come on back into standing forward bend again. Feet hips distance apart and parallel, and just be mindful. I know a lot of you are fine to release and let your whole body hang, even putting your hands to your elbows if you want. But that is totally optional. Support the low back. If you're feeling discomfort, put your elbows above your knees or use your hands on blocks or the chair. And you know, when I have a chair there, I even like to put my head on the chair, which it really allows the back to stay long. Then you can let your arms hang without hanging into your back. You can play around a lot in forward bends, finding, what feels good for you. And every day is a different feeling, right? So let yourself just adjust. One more breath. And then we're going to bend our knees, press into our feet, and rise up. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up. And let our exhale bring our hands down as the top of the head reaches up higher towards the ceiling. And let's reverse our arms and inhale our hands right up through the midline. On the exhale, open the arms like wings as you fold forward from the hips again into your standing forward bend. And let your next inhale help you find that long, flat back. Good. This time, left foot steps back to come into lunge. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. So think about making your body longer right here. Think about length in the back body and the back of your head being in line with your spine. And we'll come into a downward facing dog pose again from here. And you know what, it's up to you. Where you have your hands, focus on lengthening back through your sitting bones so you find that sense of being equal through the sides of your body. But then all the space in your spine here, in your down dog. Good. Next inhale will bring us out again towards that plank. And again, it's totally optional whether you stay in plank there, go to your forearms. You're more than welcome to bend your elbows, do push-ups if you want to, or even just bend your elbows a little bit and stay there in your chaturanga. That's fine too. And then we'll come on back into down dog. Really, again, focus on that spine. Focus on the length and the spaces in your spine here. And this time, left foot comes forward to find our lunge. Again, feel your whole body in the lunge. Draw your shoulders down. Feel that length through the back body. And we'll step forward to come on into standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. And again, be mindful. Whatever kind of support you need, let yourself go there and go right to your breaths. And see if you can, in those little spaces between your breaths, find a little, in that pause, a little bit of, like you relax, or like you're just, in those little spaces, you just let go briefly before you receive your next inhale or your next exhale. From here, we'll bring our hands back up to our hips, press into our feet equally as we rise straight on up, and inhale our arms out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Let's inhale the hands right back up through the midline. On the exhale, open the arms and come on forward into your standing forward bend. Let your next inhale lengthen out into that flat back again. And this time we're going to walk into down dog. So bring your hands to whatever surface you like to use. Walk your way back and let yourself find your dog. Elbows hug inward. Feel your hands on the surface they're on. And let your next inhale bring you again towards that plank. Now it is optional. Once you do this, whether you add a back bend here, you can be on the floor, come onto your forearms and do a Sphinx. Or you can come into a cobra or an up dog. Totally not necessary to do a back bend at all. And then we'll make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. Walk your dog a little bit. Let your head turn a little side to side too if you can. Let your neck release. And then come on back to your full dog. And once again, next inhale will come out towards that plank. And it is totally optional whether you add any kind of back bend. You can stay in plank. You can move through for a back bend. You can do any kind of back bend as well. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. And from here, let's bring our left foot forward this time. Come into lunge. And then we'll step all the way back into standing forward bend, feet underneath us. Again, release where you can be and let yourself go right to those breaths. And let your face soften. Your jaw. Even imagine letting your tongue relax, right? Good, so one more full deep breath. And as we let our hands come on up to our hips, we'll bend our knees, press into our feet equally. Come on up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Let's bring our left arm on top of our right. Give yourself a hug wherever you like to hold, maybe down towards your armpits, maybe up and over your shoulders. Let your elbows melt down. Let your head tilt one way. It doesn't matter which way. And then come on back up and let your head go the other way. And if you're like me and you have just immediately found a really tight little spot, do what you need to do. Like if you want to roll your head around a little bit and even let your shoulders be added to that, do it. Like, and you know, make sure you're not locking your knees. You can kind of soften your knees. You know, find a spot if it helps to hang out somewhere to kind of release that a little bit, do. Once you're like, I can come on back up, I feel better. You can stay right there hugging, or you can head in towards a little eagle wrap or half eagle wrap with your arms if you want. Totally up to you. Just let it feel good, an opening, not like you're forcing anything. Good, let's unwind the arms. We're going to switch to bring the right arm on top of the left. Again, you hold where you like. Kind of give yourself your own kind of hug. And then again, if you can let your head tilt a little bit one way and the other, that's up to you. And you know, how that feels is different for everybody. And it's kind of interesting how when you change the arm that's on top, it'll change like where you feel a tightness too, right? Or maybe not. If it's really tight in one place, it'll just stay there probably. So if you like the rolling of the head and kind of letting your shoulders add in, by all means do. It might feel good, it might not, right? And then once you're back into center and you've got your gaze back forward again, you can decide, do you even want to let yourself come towards eagle wrap or a half eagle wrap there with your arms, or stay hugging? In other words, trying to find release, not adding tension, letting that release happen between the shoulder blades and all up into your shoulders too, right? Space between your ears and your shoulders right now. The tops of your shoulders and your ears. Think space. And then unwind your arms on down beside you. Let your arms swing a little bit forward and back. Let your knees bend a little too. And then see if you can bend your elbows once and then let the arms be straight. As they swing back behind you, you alternate. So it feels really good. Relaxes into the shoulders now. You feel the weight of your arms as they swing and hang. Good. Shake it out a little bit. And we're going to come into some warriors. So let yourself turn your chair around actually if you're using it. And have your blocks handy in case you want them. And we're going to step our right foot back for warrior two. We're going to line that back foot up about parallel to the back edge of the mat, or send your heel back further if your angle of that foot likes that, right? And then bend that left knee. Be really mindful there. Find that alignment of your knee. Let it feel really good. And then just let your hands come right to be in front of your chest, in front of your heart, into your prayer hands. And feel as equal as you can now. Now, obviously, you're not symmetrical. You've got your left knee bent, your right knee straighter, and you're not symmetrical, but you want to feel balanced. You don't have to be symmetrical to be balanced, right? Let's inhale the hands right up through the midline of the body. And as the arms open, start to turn the palms down as you come into your warrior two arms, turning your gaze to look out over the top of that left hand. Feel energy all the way out through your fingertips. And you're still feeling the feet equal in the floor and very balanced and strong. And let's put our right hand down on our right hip, and we're going to straighten our left leg out and bring our left hand down for triangle. Now you can use your leg. You can put it down on your thigh, slide the hand down more down your leg, or you can use your hand on the chair or a block. Feel your thighs lifting up towards your hips. Let your right shoulder start to draw up towards the ceiling. And if you want to add the right arm up, you can add it up, or you can keep your hand right there on your hip. So if your shoulder bothers you, just leave the hand down. Let yourself enjoy finding the length of your spine. Good. One more breath. We're going to bend our left knee. We're going to come back to warrior two. So you got to use your core body, your core strength to get you right back into that warrior two. Soften your shoulders down. Imagine your arms are growing out of your back. And then let your arms come on down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel. And how wide apart you have your feet for your wide-legged forward bend is up to you. Grab blocks if you like them. So take your time. Once you get forward, whether your hands are on the floor or on blocks any height, go ahead and bend your right knee. Let yourself stay with that knee bent a second, just so you feel that inner thigh a little more. And then shift back and bend your left knee a little bit. And obviously, if this bothers your knees, don't do it. Stay there for a second. Feel your inner right thigh. Good. And your feet are still all four corners of the feet on the floor. And then come on back into center and see if you can bend both your knees and barely lift your heels up. Just a tiny little bit, almost like you could just slip a piece of paper under your heels. And then put your heels back down and let yourself release into your pose. However you want to use, like blocks for support, or have your hands, if you'd like, rather between your feet. You can go ahead and hang all the way upside down, but be mindful of how your back feels. And let yourself enjoy nice, easy breaths coming in and going out through your nose. And again, find those little spaces between your breaths. And imagine that you just have a little rest time there. In those little spaces, you just release before you receive your next inhale or exhale. Slowly think about rising back up from here. So take your time. You know, if you need to adjust your feet first before you come up, by all means do. Easily rising up, and if you're dizzy and you need to keep your feet wide for a second, do. Once you're ready to walk around a little bit, move through your feet and your ankles, however you want. We are going to come to the other side. So this time it'll be stepping our left foot back and finding our warrior two, lining up our heels. Getting that right foot. Remember, as you bend that right knee, the right foot is about parallel to the long edge of your mat, and your knee comes out over the center of your foot. And then bring your hands again into prayer hands there in front of your chest. And again, just imagine feeling very balanced here. We're going to inhale the hands right up through the midline. On the exhale, open the arms, let yourself come into your warrior two arms, bringing your gaze out over the top of that right hand. Feeling the feet very equally into the floor. Good. We're going to put our left hand on our left hip, straighten our right leg out, and bring our right hand down for triangle. So again, you know, you can use your leg, you can have your hand on the chair, you can have your hand down on a block if you choose to. That block can be in front of you, your leg there, or behind it. Now, adding that left arm straight up is totally optional. You can keep your hand right down on your hip, draw your shoulder up, and still get just as much out of a triangle pose. Or you can add the top arm up. Feel your thighs engaging up towards your hips, so you're really engaged in your legs. We're going to bend that right knee and come on back into warrior two. So let the feet gently press away from each other so you come into that strength of the core body there. And then we'll let our hands come down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel again. And again, you grab your blocks if you need them, coming on into your wide-legged forward bend. Once you get your hands down, if you want to bend a knee at a time at your own pace, you can go back and forth a little bit if that feels good. You know, whatever speed you want to go, slowly or a little more quickly if that feels better. Good. And then come on back into center, and let's walk our hands over to the right. Doesn't matter how far you go. You might just want to use your blocks and walk a little. Let's see, once you get to the right, however far you want to go, put your right hand up on your right hip. If you want, you can even roll the shoulder up towards the ceiling a little bit. And that's up to you whether you want to add that little bit of a twist or not. And then come on back down with that hand, and we're going to walk to the left. Again, you can just walk your blocks. They can be like extensions of your hands, or you can bring your hands over as far as you want. Left hand is going to come up to your left hip. And again, if you like to add that little twist, you can kind of roll the shoulder up. You might even want to look up a little bit towards the ceiling. And then we'll come on back down with that hand. We're going to come on back into center again. And now adjust however you need to be comfortable in this pose. If you like to use blocks under your forearms, under your head, if you want to put your elbows above your knees, or hold your ankles, or you can put your hands between your feet, let yourself be in your pose there. You want to be able to have the pose feel so comfortable you don't feel any kind of stress, right? So you're relaxed in your upper body, and you can just let yourself very easily follow your breaths all the way in and out. Letting go through your face and your jaw. Good. One more breath. And now be really mindful when you get ready to rise up. Take your time. Again, if you're dizzy, you might want to stay wider apart with your feet for a little bit when you come up. And when you're ready to walk around a little bit, move through your feet and your ankles. So it feels good. And we're going to come into Warrior One this time. So you might want to stay with your chair, the back of your chair facing you, and bring your blocks forward too, so that you have them at the front of your mat. And we're going to come forward towards the front of the mat, and then take a good step back for that Warrior One. So your feet might be 2 feet apart, they might be 3 feet. You might decide, well, I want to go wider a little bit with my feet because that helps my balance. So, get to where you feel really good to be in the pose, bringing your shoulders around so you're square towards the front of your mat. And then from here, just let your fingertips come to the tops of your shoulders and let your elbows melt down a little bit, right? And then feel this sense of really being open across your chest. Come into a couple of 3-part breaths, inhaling into your belly, into your ribs, and then all the way up into your chest. Good. And then let's unfold our arms on down beside us. And let's inhale the arms forward. We're going to make a big circle with our arms up overhead. If you can, let the arms reach behind you as much as you can. And then the next time you come forward, you're going to keep those arms up overhead. Now you can keep them as wide as you want, or you can bring your hands closer together so your arms are over your shoulders. Some of you might even like that clasping of the hands and sending your pointer fingers up. So if you like that, if that feels good in your shoulders, you can come into that. You can bring your gaze up, or you can keep your gaze forward. Keep the belly nice and lifted. So you're protecting your low back, but you don't want to tuck your tailbone forward. Your tailbone's reaching back on a diagonal line. So one more breath. And now release your arms on down beside you and bring your hands behind you and clasp your hands back there. And now think of just bowing your head. And this might be enough right there. Let yourself just bow your head, look down. If you want to fold a little more forward over that front leg, you can. Coming into like a humble warrior, totally optional. And then we're going to release our hands all the way down to blocks or a chair and find our lunge, regular lunge there. Now, so reach back with the right heel directly behind your foot. We're going to add a twist. So putting your weight onto your right hand, bring your left hand to your left hip, roll that shoulder up. There you are in your twist and your lunge. And you can decide whether you like to stretch that left arm up or not. You can keep it down and be perfectly happy in your lunge with your twist there. One more breath. And then go ahead and bring your hand back down. And we're going to step forward to get our feet right underneath us. Go ahead and bend both your knees fairly deeply. Let your weight shift a little more towards your heels, just a little bit. And let yourself release there for one more breath. And then we'll press into our feet equally as we rise on up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down, coming into mountain pose. Take a breath or two here to enjoy feeling very centered, and that the energy is flowing through the body a little bit more now. Your head might feel a little lighter than it did when we started class. And then go ahead and let your arms come on down, shake out a little bit. We're just going to do the other side. So we'll step forward on our mat again. And this time it'll be the left foot that steps back. So you kind of take a pretty comfortable step back at first for Warrior One. And if you're like, well, I really feel more comfortable if I'm a bit longer or a bit wider, right? So that when you get your shoulders square and you can really release yourself there, it feels really good. And if you need to widen your stance a little bit, do. Good. And then just put the tips of your fingers on the tops of your shoulders there, but your elbows are melted down. And now again, try a couple of those three-part breaths, inhaling into the belly, into the ribs, all the way up into your chest. And when you exhale, imagine the breath coming out of the chest, and then the ribs, and then the belly. Good. And then we'll unfold our arms on down beside us. And let's inhale the arms forward and up this time. Forward and up. No circle. Just stay up here with the arms overhead. Turn your pinkies towards each other. Again, if you like to clasp your hands and send your pointer finger up, do. If you're like, no, that feels terrible in my shoulders, it makes my shoulders really lift up, then keep your hands apart. Let yourself feel that lift through the front of the body. Good. One more breath. And then bring your gaze forward if it was up. Open your arms on down beside you here and clasp your hands behind you. And again, you can just bow your head if you want. Just let your head come forward. If you feel like, oh, I want to come forward a little with my upper body, you can. You can fold all the way down over that leg if you want, right? If you're like, oh, it just feels wonderful to go all the way over my inner thigh, even releasing your arms off your back if you want, right? You don't have to be in a longer stance to do that either. Now we're going to release to that lunge, so you've got to find your hands onto whatever height you want them down there. And now release that left heel directly behind your foot to find your lunge. Shift your weight onto your left hand, bring your right hand to your right hip, and roll that right shoulder up, bringing your hand onto your low back. And it is totally optional whether you lift that arm up. If you like to stretch your right arm up, you can. So finding that twist in the middle of your back and letting yourself just lengthen out through the top of your head and lengthen back into that inner left heel. And we're going to bring our right hand right back down to the block, and we're going to step forward and come on into standing forward bend. So again, bend your knees more deeply. Let your weight shift back a little more to your heels if you can. And if you have your hands on the blocks, that makes that easier. You can put the blocks out there a little farther and shift to the heels. And then equalize your feet there, your weight into your feet, and come on back up to standing. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down as our head floats upward. You know, and if you need to sway around a little bit coming into this mountain pose, do it. Sometimes you just want to feel the weight shift a little bit to the fronts of the feet and to the heels, sometimes side to side. Just enjoy that quiet strength of simply standing, feeling balanced. And then we'll let our arms come on down beside us, shake out a little bit, and walk around if you need to, right? Okay, this is a prime day to be able to use the wall. So, let's do it, all right? So, two of you can be over there, and then you two here. And your mat can come to the wall, but really you don't need to have a mat under your feet to do a little bit of a half moon here with your back to the wall. So, get your block and find a wall where you can have enough space to come down with your right hand on the block, and your left leg is going to come on up in the air, and you're going to let yourself lean into the wall, right? So the right side of your butt cheek is on the wall, right? You're supported. Your shoulder can also release to the wall, right? And then you can even open up to let yourself bring the left shoulder towards the wall and extend that left arm up. You don't have to do this whole thing. You can keep your hand down. You can keep this leg lower. If you're like, okay, I'm doing this for 2 seconds and then I'm coming out of it, then do it. Yeah, and use another block in front of you if you need. But let the wall support you. Good. Lengthen out through the spine. Enjoy that feeling of space in your spine there as you open up the hips. Beautiful. And we are going to come on back so we can turn around and go to the other side. So again, just be mindful. The leg you're standing on, the foot you're standing on is about parallel to the wall. That gives you the most out of the pose. Sometimes it's tempting to let the toes go more in towards the center of the room, but try to let yourself be parallel, and that gives you more in the inner thigh of the leg you're standing on. And then again, you can open up, you can keep your hand on your hip, you can stretch your arm up overhead, and imagine that your head is a part of your spine here now. Think of engaging your belly, flexing the back foot. The toes are just a little bit facing downward. Good, aren't you brave? You can bring that bottom hand up if you want. Margaret, you are on a roll. And then come on back up. Turn your back to the wall, right? You don't need to be on a mat, but if your mat's there, you can be on it. It's not going to slip unless you're on a real slippery kind of mat. And then bring your feet out a little bit and bend your knees just a little bit, right? Just enough for a relief feeling. So not so much that you're, feeling like you're going to make your thighs cramp. It's just a little bit of relief. And then turn your hands so that the backs of your hands are into the wall. And you can feel your shoulders in the wall here. Kind of like when your palms turn this way, the tips of your shoulder blades kind of come around the sides of your body. And your shoulders can melt down. So you might just want to stay right here. If you like going deeper, you can go deeper. Just look down. Make sure you're not letting your knees go out beyond your toes. If you are doing that, then step your feet out further. If you want to go lower, then you want to step out so that you don't have your knees going out beyond your toes. And you can press into the backs of the hands and feel really engaged here. At the same time, released. Good. And then we're going to walk ourselves back towards the wall. We're going to turn around. And we're going to come onto our forearms on the wall into a little forearm plank. Now you can clasp your hands and send your pinky finger out so that your pinkies are long. And press into the outside edges of your hands, press into your forearms, press into your elbows even. Let your elbows hug towards each other. And you want to try to be like a plank. Instead of dropping into your belly and loading your low back, feel like you're in your forearm plank, which you are here at the wall. And when you inhale, rise both your heels up a little bit. And when you exhale, let them come back down. So you're feeling as you inhale and the heels rise up, your shoulders get a little bit of movement there. You can let yourself go a little bit, a few more times. If you like to walk, you can bend one knee at a time and walk through this plank, which is actually harder because you really don't want your pelvis to shift up and down. You want to try to stay really solid in your pelvis. then finish off. Now, if you're able to, let yourself slide your arms down a little bit, shift your hips back a little bit, and that is coming more towards a dolphin. It also changes really in how your shoulders feel. But if you were doing a dolphin in the floor, there's a whole lot more weight, right, involved in this. So if you can change that angle of your shoulders a little bit, do, just so it feels good, not so it feels stressful, right? Let's be mindful. Good. And then we're going to walk on back in towards the wall. And go ahead and turn your back to the wall. And let yourself do what we did really early in class. Bring your arms up overhead. See if you can either hold your elbows, or maybe it's going to be more like holding your, what do you call them, wrists? Or your hands, right? If you can get your elbows, do. But you'll naturally have one arm that's on top. Now, everybody does. So now you're going to try to figure out how to change that and switch and bring the other arm on top, which always feels really weird. So let yourself try to switch so that you have the other arm on top. Good. And stretch out those triceps a little bit. And then go ahead and lower your arms on down. Shake out a little. And let's come back to our mats now. And we're going to come down onto our bellies on the floor. So you can just stay wherever your mat is, it's fine. Come on down onto your belly. Come into a little Sphinx Pose when you get there, which will really kind of release the back. If you can go down a little bit lower with your upper body if you need to. Let your feet go more towards the outside corners, the corners of your mat down there, and let your heels kind of come inward. So you're actually kind of rolling to the insides of your feet, right? And now you may not want to go up as high. You may want to stay lower. You may decide, well, it feels fine to bring my elbows underneath me more. It's a little bit more of a back bend, right, when your legs are turned like this. So don't force anything. See if you can imagine totally releasing your buttocks and your hips. Right, letting go. Easier said than done, mind you. It's actually hard. Good. And now we'll come down lower. And from here, bring your legs a little back more underneath you. Bring your arms down alongside you. Turn your palms down towards the ground. And on your next inhale, float up into a little locust pose, reaching your fingertips and your toes back towards the wall behind you. Take your time, let it feel good, enjoy feeling that lift. Now, if you can, come down a little bit, about halfway back down towards the ground, but not all the way. So it might be really close to all the way if you weren't up really very high. And then as you inhale, float back up a little bit higher again. So as you exhale, come down a little bit. And as you inhale, try to go back up a little bit. And now we're going to release all the way down onto the floor. And we're going to stretch our right arm overhead and roll onto our right side. Now when you do this, if this bothers your right shoulder to lay on your arm, don't do it. Get a blanket under your head, bring your arm forward, put a block under your head will work too. So you want to be okay. Flex through both your feet. Lift your left leg up just a little bit off of your right so that your feet are parallel. It's like you're standing in mountain pose. Your feet are apart a little bit. Bring your left hand, if you can, to your left hip. Press into the outside edge of your right pinky toe on the floor. That'll stabilize you as you rise your left leg up about 12 to 18 inches and then lower it back down. And then rise it up a little bit and then lower it back down. And then inhale it up a little bit again and exhale it back down. And then inhale it up a little bit and exhale it back down. Now when you've got your back down again, bend your left knee, put your left foot behind you. So you're going to feel your quad. So your knees are side by side. Some of you will be able to reach back and get a hold of the top of your left foot. Now if you can't do that, don't worry about it. You're feeling your quad whether you get your foot or not. Again, try to keep your knees pretty much in a line. So if the left knee comes forward a bit, see if you can think about it, reaching it down towards the foot of your mat. And you can press the foot into your hand if you have it. One more breath. then let go, let the leg come back long. And now imagine you're going to bring that left foot up and do tree pose on your side. Bring your left foot into the inside of your right leg somewhere, and you're in tree. And you can keep the left hand still on your hip. You can put it on the floor if you need a little support, or you can stretch the arm overhead. You can even do that clasping of your hands, sending your pointer finger up here on your side if you want. But try, now again, this is hard. You're probably kind of tensing up right now on your hip. I know I am. Try to let that hip release. So find the focus of pressing into the outside edge of your pinky toe there on the floor, your right pinky toe. But try to let the hips release instead of tensing up. One more breath. And then let the leg come back long. And all we're going to do here is roll back onto our bellies and come into a little Sphinx pose for a breath or two to give yourself a little bit of a relief there. And you probably feel pretty lopsided in your hips right now. At least I do. So just kind of enjoy how you feel for a second. We're going to fix it all by doing the other side. And then we'll come on down and we're going to roll onto our left side. So let yourself come onto your left side. And again, if your shoulder bothers you, to lift that arm up, then put something under your head and bring your arm down, like in front of you, whatever works, you know. And then again, flex your feet. Feel that right leg come a little off the left so that you have that sense of a little space between your feet like you're in mountain pose. Your legs are right underneath you. If you can put your right hand on your hip, do, or keep it on the floor. And then inhale that right leg up a little bit, 12 or 18 inches. Exhale, bring it down. And then inhale it up a little. And exhale, bring it down. And inhale up. And exhale down. And inhale up. And exhale down. One more time. Try to let it be smooth. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. Good. Now bend the knee. Put the foot behind you for that quad stretch. Now, you know, you may want to reach back and get your foot, or you might go, absolutely, are you crazy? Not. So, you know, it's harder to do than if you're even standing up, really. It's hard. It's hard to keep your balance. It really stretches out your quad, even if you don't have your foot, and you're just flexing the foot and keeping the knees, you know, pretty close together. Think of reaching that right knee down towards the foot of your mat. One more breath. And then let the leg come long again. Imagine a tree pose here. Right foot comes into the inside of your left leg somewhere, below or above your knee. Again, you can just keep the hand on the floor if that feels better for you. If you want to stretch your arms up overhead, you can clasp your hands together or not. You don't have to clasp your hands. To me, it just feels good, but so you can send that pointer finger up, and now again, what happens often is that you're tensing up in your hips. Try to let go of that. Try to let yourself feel the belly a little engaged. And of course, by pressing into the outside of your left pinky toe, that fires up your core. But for some reason, our buttocks and our hips want to kind of tense up too. Try to let it go. And that's even harder to do when you're standing up. So it's kind of fun to explore when you're not. One more breath. And now lengthen that right leg back long. We're going to roll back to our bellies. Let's come onto our forearms again for a little Sphinx pose. So you're on the tops of your feet now, and the tops of your toes. Your feet are pointed. Let them stretch out. And then clasp your hands. You decide if you feel like doing a half forearm plank right here, just to let yourself engage a little bit that way, or if you want to put your toes down, lift up for a full forearm plank. Pressing into the forearms, letting yourself, you know, feel that. If you're in the half plank, imagine, you know, you're on the flesh above your knees. You can kind of pull yourself towards the front of your mat. Feel deeper engagement there. And then we'll release to come down, and we're going to shift back towards child's pose. So it should feel pretty good. Whether you stay forward like this on your forearms with your bottom up in the air, that's a fine same way to do child's pose. You know, your knees are your knees, and then they're not, if they're not happy with you shifting your hips back more, do not do that. So be the way that you can be in your child's pose, where you're comfortable to be. You can be up, you can have the hips down more, you can roll a blanket if you want and put them kind of at the back of your knees. A rolled blanket keeps you from going so deeply. And you can have your arms soft overhead or not. Be mindful. Good. So one more breath now. Really feel the breath coming into your low back. And then to come up, let your hands come by your legs so that when you come up and around to sitting, if you need a blanket to sit on, grab a blanket. Stretch your legs on out in front of you. We'll just do a classic seated forward bend here. So our legs are in front of us. If you know forward bending is just like not a great feeling for you, you can sit on a blanket. You can also roll a blanket up or put blocks between underneath your knees here, so that when you think of coming forward from your low back, if your knees naturally want to bend and you're tight in your low back, this will help you, right? You might even be able to reach down like that and get your toes when your knees are supported and bent like that and you're up on a blanket. So don't force anything. Let yourself come forward where you can. You can let your head hang. Just make sure that when you do come forward that you're not, just rolling forward from your shoulders. It really is a coming forward from your low back. Beautiful, everybody in here, perfect. And just breathe. Opening up through the backs of the legs. Good, one more breath. And now let yourselves come up. And now separate your feet a little wider. Now how much wider is up to you, because we're going to just do the same thing. We're going to come forward a little, okay? So sometimes when your feet are just a little wider, not together, it's even easier to reach down and get your toes, right? And if you're like, well, I want to feel more in my inner thighs, you might want your legs really wide and come forward so your hands are on the floor. So kind of go by your own body and see what feels the best to you. So everybody is coming forward with a long back in here, is why I decided just to do this and let yourself feel the difference than when your feet, your legs are directly in front of you or out a little bit, right? Good. Now, keep your legs where they are. Come on up. Put your left hand down on the top of your left leg and slide it on down. Let your right hand just keep on your right hip and roll your right shoulder up. And there you are in a side stretch. You don't have to go any deeper. You can stay right there. If you feel like you want to add the arm, you can bring that right arm up or lower it down a little more towards your head if you want to add the arm. That's totally up to you. And then we're going to slowly come on back up. And we're going to slide down the right side with the hand. It doesn't matter how far you go. You might be on your shin, your ankle. You might go all the way to your foot. And see if you can then just roll that left shoulder up. Take your time. You can stay right there. You can have the arm up, straight up if you want, or lowering it down a little bit more towards your head. Slowly bring ourselves up, and now let your hands come behind you and see if you can, whether you're on your fingertips or you go kind of flat to your hands, whatever works. Draw your chest forward, your shoulders back a little bit. Just open up here across the chest. And don't do anything that bothers your neck. You can stay looking forward. You can look up a little bit if you want. And then we'll release to come on back up. And let your hands help you. Bring those heavy legs together. Shake them out a little bit. And we're going to come on down onto our backs on the floor. So take your time. Come on down. Bring your feet to the floor. Let your back come on down and adjust whatever you need. And then bring your arms out beside you. Let your knees come a little side to side. Just be easy. Let it feel good. Good. And then bring your knees on both ends, one at a time, towards your chest, and open your knees out to the side. Let your hands either rest on your shins or ankles as your bottoms of your feet come towards each other. You can wrap your hands around your feet if you want. It's not necessary. Just let those inner thighs stretch out a little bit. And then bring your knees back in towards the center. Bring your feet to the floor. Let your feet be fairly close together, like they're touching. And then cross your right thigh over your left. So it's like thigh over thigh, like your woman cross-legged. And let your knees go a little bit to the right. Now, they may want to go way to the right. You may want to let your left hip come off the floor, but just be really mindful. This is a very deep, like side waist stretch. It's a very different feeling kind of twist. So just don't go too deeply. If it doesn't feel good, just bring the knees a little bit over to the right. And then come on back up to the top. And now we're going to bring the knees over to the left. Now, pretty quickly, you can let your right foot hit the floor and hold your knees up so you don't go any deeper. And that's a twist right there. If you let the knees descend more towards the ground, but it's too much to go all the way over, you can grab a block and support yourself. So be where you can. Let it feel good. And then come on back up. Uncross your legs as you come. And square your hips off. So put your feet down, kind of lift your hips up, get everything all adjusted back. And then feet a little closer together. We're going to cross our left thigh on top of our right. Now that's the thigh that's on top. Let the knees go that same direction to the left. A little bit, right? It might just be a tiny little bit. Or you might feel like, I want the knees to go down, 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 down. And you get up into the front of that right hip and into the side waist. Again, that is totally optional, how low you go with that. And then come on back up with your knees. And we're going to bring them all the way over to the right. So again, it is up to you how far you go on this twist. Let yourself just release. Good. And now as you start to head back up, you uncross whenever you're ready. And let yourself bring your knees in towards your chest. You might want to circle your knees. There's any number of things that might help you release here. You might want to let your knees come out away from you and back in towards you with your breath. Or you might want to stretch your legs up. And like I said, any number of things that, whatever sounds good to you right now. If you feel like you really want to do a bridge pose, by all means, do a bridge pose. If you need to do another kind of a twist, to let yourself find a little more release for your hips and your low back. Maybe you need another hip opener. You can always do one of those figure fours there on your back, or happy baby pose. So take your time. I'm going to start to get lights first. And then I'll gradually make my way around to green stuff. There's no rush. You've got time. So if you think you feel fine for Shavasana and then you stretch out and you feel a little bit iffy, let me bring you whatever you might need. If you need a bolster, So I'm walking around. I have an inkling about a couple of you over here. So this really tells me a lot. Yeah. So just release now. Find a good place for your shoulders by bringing your hands to a place that feels easy to be, right? Same thing for your legs. If you need to kind of reposition your legs a little bit to get comfortable up into your hips, as you just enjoy. It's like coming home to your breath. Accepting your breaths in and out. And appreciating the ground underneath you, that firmness of the floor. And just keep returning to your breath every time your mind goes off into thinking and you realize that's what's happening. Just softly come back to your breath, whatever helps you do that. And enjoy these few minutes to give your body and your brain time to benefit however they need from all that we just did. Allow yourself to completely and fully relax. refresh you, to bring you back into feeling physical there on the ground. Letting yourself feel your fingers and your toes before you start to let them wiggle and move, your hands, your feet, and letting your arms or legs move the way you need. When you're ready to move, whether you need to stretch or bend, take your time. You're welcome to stay on your back or roll to either your right or your left side into a soft fetal position. To give yourself a little bit longer there, cradled by the ground. Like you're okay to rise up to sitting, really stay as easy as you can, as comfortable when you start to rise up, and soft still, so that you're not tensing anything up. You're kind of letting your spine take over. It's like your bones take over. You're still really released in your muscles. Almost like the central column of your spine holds you up once you're seated. And you can let your shoulders feel nice and soft. Sit how is comfortable for your hips. And as you come back to your breath, feel the breath again coming in and out through your nose. And on your next exhale, let your hands come gently to meet in front of your heart.